Good afternoon. So this brings us to the finale of this 3-day, rather 4 days, very busy and very productive conference. This is the valedictory session of the 62nd ISLE Annual Conference. I would now request the dignitaries to please grace the dais. I request Professor Alakhen Sharma, President of the 62nd ISLE Annual Conference, Professor and Director, Institute for Human Development, to please come on the dais. Mr. Manoranjan Parida, Deputy Director of IIT Roorkee, so kindly grace the dais. Professor Deepak Nayyar, President of the Indian Society of Labour Economics, ISLE, and former Vice Chancellor, University of Delhi, please come on the dais. The valedictory address is being delivered by Ms. Dagmar Walter. She is Director, ILO Decent Work Technical Support Team for South Asia and Country Office for India. The vote of thanks will be proposed by Professor I.C. Awasthi, Secretary, Honorary Secretary of Indian Society of Labour Economics. So kindly come on the dais. And Dr. S.P. Singh, the man who made it possible at IIT Roorkee, the organizing secretary of this conference, Professor, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Roorkee, request him to please come on the dais. I invite Professor Alakhen Sharma, the conference president, for his introductory remarks and overview of the conference.
Very good afternoon. This was a mammoth conference, and whatever feedback I have got from you, many people have come for the first time, several people. And several of them told me that they will now regularly ISLE in future also. So this shows the success of the conference. Academically so productive, arrangements were so good, hospitality by IIT and organization was superb, and we had really, this is one of the best conferences in the history of the Indian Society of Labour Economics. Friends, academically so important. Just now, Professor Deepak Nayyar, Professor Ravi Srivastava, and myself and other colleagues were just dancing through papers and feedbacks from the chairperson and discussions. Quality of papers were so good. So Indian Society of Labour Economics is very happy, and it is turning into a real training ground for young researchers. You know, something like there were 40 technical sessions, 40. Over 300 papers were presented. We had 4 sessions, pre-presentations. Otherwise, that was shorter presentation in 4 sessions, but otherwise also 37 sessions, academic sessions, 8 parallel panels. On so many subjects already you know, 1 round table, 1 plenary panel, and apart from, of course, inaugural session and this valedictory. So the size of the conference, number of people, academic discussions, it was really superb. And I thank Dr. S.P. Singh, his colleagues, IIT administration, director, deputy director, everybody for hosting us. Conference deliberations have not attempted. Within a month, you will get an extensive report of the conference. You must have seen we have list of reporters, principal reporters, overall reporter, editor. So you will get it, and many of the papers will come after peer review in the journal also, Indian Journal of Labour Economics. So friends, hope that we will meet within a year, not in December, maybe February, somewhere, maybe Itanagar, maybe Bombay. We'll tell you, shortly inform you in a month. So thank you very much for participating in the conference.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. The Deputy Director of IIT Roorkee, Mr. Manoranjan Parida, is Professor of Civil Engineering and joint faculty at Center for Transport Systems at IIT Roorkee. His areas of interest are urban transport systems, transport environment systems and safety. He's also the convener of Urban Roads Committee, Urban Indian Roads Congress as well. May I request you to please address the gathering?
Good afternoon, everyone. As Professor Sharma said, he wanted to speak briefly. I would like to be very brief. And already in the inaugural, the director has given an overview of the institute. So you are familiar with that, and going by the reports of Professor Sharma, it has been a very successful conference. And as a host, we feel extremely proud, and we deeply appreciate Indian society for labor economics choosing IIT Roorkee as the venue. I have many of my younger faculty colleagues, those who are present from economics, from the Department of HSS. I think they will definitely cherish to host this conference at the near future. In fact, this our second lecture hall complex. After its inauguration, it has been a vibrant place. We have been hosting a series of international and national level conferences at a very big scale. And we are really thankful to the organizers, to the society for choosing IIT Roorkee as the venue. Only I am basically expert of transport system. So I thought about two specific points. We have a keynote speaker. One point is regarding, I went through the couple of the themes. So two themes attracted my attention. One is OSH, that is occupational health and safety. And we have seen a lot of highway construction, lot of transport infrastructure development in last 2 decades. It's always there in the news, be it a 6-lane project, be it a express highway project, be it the rapid rail transit system, or you have, say, high-speed train. So all these projects have significant engagement of labor force. And we have definite mechanism to ensure that the workplace environment is decent enough. In fact, in the designation of Ms. Dagmar Walter, so decent work trim. So in fact, while we do audit of these highway projects, the question comes to us are we providing a decent work environment to the workforce, those who are engaged in all these projects? Like all infrastructure projects are successful because of the substantial contribution. During COVID, we have seen while many people were working from home, all our infrastructure projects in the campus, we have many projects were on, and it was possible because of this labor force. So it makes us to think through that do we provide the good working conditions. In fact, there are protocols. ILO has been working with the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, with the Indian Roads Congress Committee to send the message. And as part of that, especially we have a construction zone road safety audit, which specifically looks at the environment and safety aspect of the workers. Are we addressing that explicitly? So that is one. The other thing is the impact of digital innovations. So today that's a reality. At some point of time, in fact, ILO in road sector was advocating more for manual technology, so that whatever agriculture implements, whatever say skills the rural population had, that can be utilized seamlessly. But today we see there is more and more of say digital technologies. And one specific example I'll give, especially for all toll roads, it was decided that the toll booths are to be managed by female worker. During conference, I have seen there has been a lot of deliberation with respect to the gender aspect of the laborers. So, but unfortunately, I'll tell that these female workforce, those who are in the toll booth, now we have shifted to a new technology, RFID based detection, so that the vehicle never stops at the toll counter. It can just move on. So in that case, you need to think how are you going to engage these people? So there is going to be really a lot of need for retraining of the workforce, especially maybe with certain code we have engaged these people, but the job skills that because of technology, expectations are changing. And we need to think in terms of training on site or training by utilizing digital medium. So that's going to be really very, very useful. I had a personal exposure to road construction in the state of Bihar between 2007 and 2013. So it was 1700 kilometers of state highways in the state of Bihar. But I feel very happy. I have seen various codes of practice are available with the people on the ground. They will show, you can look at this is the soft copy of the code which is used. So digital medium has a great potential in terms of reskilling or providing skills to workforce on the ground. And I believe probably the female workers, they can be benefited most if we are utilizing these digital mediums in terms of enhancing the capacity of this workforce. So with that, I'll close my address, and I thank the organizers for this opportunity. And although the president has said that all the arrangements, everything was wonderful, if there has been any lapse, I'll take the entire responsibility on me on behalf of the institute. And do tolerate, do bear with us. This venue also, it has been a new venue. There might be couple of problems. The toilets are in different floors. Like every toilet, you have say female toilets in different floor, male toilets in different floors. So we are working on that. So if there has been any inconvenience, I'll say we are sorry for that, and we'll definitely look for your return to the campus, whether it's conference or the department. The department is very, very vibrant, and on this 175 years, besides hosting the conference, they have started new academic program, hiring very young faculty, very dynamic. So on different occasion, we'd like to see you back in the campus. And I wish all of you a very safe and comfortable return back home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Parida. I now invite Professor Deepak Nair, President of the Indian Society of Labour Economics and former Vice Chancellor, University of Delhi, to please address the gathering.
Dear colleagues and participants, I recognize that time and patience are both exhaustible resources, so I shall be brief. The past 3 days have been rich fare. We began with pre-conference events on Sunday because the conference itself has such a crowded calendar. We have had a presidential address, keynote addresses on each of our chosen themes, invited lectures, plenary panel discussions on social protection, and a wide range of stimulating panel discussion, and above all, technical sessions where our younger scholars have presented papers. The conversations outside the conference rooms have been just as important as those inside. The evenings with debates, gossip, entertainment, and whatever else people choose to do are fun and special. I've always believed that a conference is a success if you meet one old friend and make one new friend. The ICLE conferences always do better. In this closing session, I would like to mention briefly 2 sets of profound changes in the worlds of labor and employment situated in the wider context of development, which will be the focus of our concerns in society in times to come, and also center stage in the debates of development. First, the era of markets and globalization during the past 3 decades has changed the world of work beyond recognition. There is an explicit shift in the focus from labor to work. It is also possible to discern a change in the nature of work. And there is an implicit shift in emphasis, I believe, from workers as a class to workers as individuals. The decline and fall of trade unions is part of the same process. Employment is no longer what it used to be, anywhere. In the workplace for a lifetime with healthcare and superannuation benefits. It's almost gone. It has been casualized as people work on contract, sometimes from home, from specified purposes and limited durations. These changes in the nature of work mean that livelihoods no longer depend on employment alone. Even work is necessary but not sufficient. What matters is the income it yields. We study and debate these challenges, but I'm afraid there's more to come in the form of the technological revolution on the anvil and on the horizon, which could also exercise a profound influence on the nature of work, forms of employment, the well-being of people whose only endowment and source of income and livelihoods is their labor. Second, over the past 2 years, the implications and consequences of the coronavirus pandemic for the world of work have been transformative, far beyond what we might have thought in 2020, and the process of hysteresis, long-term consequences of short-term effects, might unfold in ways that we have not even yet begun to understand. Obviously, the ISLE cannot rest on its laurels of the past 6+ decades. It will always continue to address the problems of the present, but it must also think about challenges of the future so that it stays ahead of the curve. I might not be around on its 75th anniversary, and I will definitely not be there in its centenary year, but if we nurture the ISLE as an institution, its conferences will be just as lively and vibrant then as they are now. May I, on behalf of the Indian Society of Labour Economics, thank our hosts, IIT Roorkee, in particular Professor S.P. Singh, for the fantastic warmth and hospitality that I received. May I also thank all the young people who have come from near and far and enriched our deliberations. I hope that you will continue to come in larger numbers. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the delegates, all of you here, for finding the time and making the effort to travel here, to be with us, and make this conference the success that it has been. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Nayyar. It's now time for the valedictory address. Ms. Dagmar Walter has over 20 years of her career with ILO, worked in several regions and duty stations across Africa, Europe, America, and now Asia. Contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, she strives to foster office efficiency and team spirit for integrated technical assistance to the ILO constituents in collaboration with stakeholders and development partners. Key areas include tackling employment and social protection challenges from an international labor rights perspective, shaping the future of work we want through effective social dialogue. Prior to her ILO career, Ms. Walter worked with international development and human rights as consultant and deputy representative to the various UN human rights bodies in Geneva. Ms. Walter holds a Master of Public Administration from the Swiss Graduate School of Public Administration. It is now my privilege to invite Ms. Dagmar Walter, Director of the ILO Decent Work Technical Support Team for South Asia and Country Office for India, to deliver the valedictory address of the 62nd ISLE Annual Conference.
Thank you very much, Priyanka, for that kind introduction. Esteemed dignitaries on the dais representing ISLE and IIT Roorkee. I would say really academicians here in the room, and especially the scholars, were very close to my heart, and everyone here. I think without you, this wouldn't make much sense what we're doing here over these days. And of course, colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, namaskar to all of you and a very good afternoon. Well, it is my pleasure and really honor to share with you a valedictory address as we close the 62nd Indian Society of Labour Economics Conference today, after what I found to have been a very engaging, enriching, fruitful discussions and deliberations on topics essential for shaping the future of work that we want to see. The COVID-19 pandemic has heavily impacted the world of work in the past 2 years. As a result, the issues around employment challenges, migration, development, and social protection discussed at this conference have become more visible and topical than ever before. At the same time, dimensions like understanding the falling female labor force participation rate and improving occupational health and safety for all workers now feature more prominently in the discussions on the future of work in India. A future that needs to be democratic, giving workers, employers, and governments an equal say in forging labor market policies. The freedom of expression, the diversity of perspectives, and the inclusion of experience and expertise make any democratic institution thrive. Democracy, diversity, and inclusion are hard-won and earned freedoms. They need to be constantly, vigilantly protected because actually they are under continuous threat from forces that prefer or even promote heterogeneity over pluralism. And this is something that we see quite a lot of in the world of today. In 2019, the International Labour Organization's constituents, that is government and also employers and workers who are full-fledged constituents of the ILO, from 187 member states, including India, adopted the Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work with a human-centered approach, which focuses on increasing investments in people's capabilities, in institutions of work, and decent and sustainable work for sustainable economic growth. Since 2020, the UN has resolutely pushed for building forward better, in line with the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And again, the constituents of the ILO last year in 2021 adopted what is called the Global Call to Action for Human-Centered Recovery from the COVID-19 crisis that is inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. And it really echoes this and ties in with both the Centenary Declaration and really strives to put it into practice in the framework of the SDGs. Now, these declarations underline the international community's determination to take up the challenges in realizing decent work and ensuring that social progress goes hand in hand with economic progress and development that does not harm the environment but preserves it. I would like to touch upon 4 important considerations that deserve our attention and further research, I would really argue here, in this endeavor, namely democratic and inclusive governance, just transition for an environmental sustainability, the development of the care economy, and digitalization. Let me start with some further considerations on governance in the future of work, which I have already started to alluding to. A sustainable and resilient labor market practices democratic and inclusive governance in its institutions, as well as workplaces. There are many good examples of workplaces that successfully practice bipartisan to navigate the pandemic crisis. And together with employers and their membership, we have made a study on this, and the report is going to be released very shortly. And these good practices are aimed for others to also look at and be inspired by. Well, it further involves negotiation, consultation, and an exchanging of information between representatives of governments, employers, and workers on issues of common interest and concern. Strong independent workers and employers organizations with the technical capacity and the access of relevant information build an environment that respects the fundamental rights of freedom of association and collective bargaining. These feed into and further the political will and commitment to engage in social dialogue by all parties. So as you see, the knowledge base here becomes extremely important. Social dialogue structures and processes can resolve important economic and social issues, encourage good governance, advance social and industrial peace and stability, and therewith boost economic progress with better working conditions. Just a few months ago, in November last year, the ILO launched its new tool the self-assessment method for social dialogue institutions to help constituents and other partners enhance the impact of tripartite social dialogue in policymaking as the world of work recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. Now more than ever, the state needs to enable an inclusive, free and democratic political and civil climate that allows employers and workers' organizations to play their role, to harness the potential of constructive bipartisan and tripartisan. Now, social dialogue also becomes essential in negotiating and governing the just transition towards environmentally sustainable economies and societies. While we humans live often as though we were the only species that inhabits the planet, we are the only species that have devastatingly impacted the planet. Climate and biodiversity are hitting alarming tipping points. Decent work plays a critical role in reducing our harmful impact on Earth. Every policy, enterprise, and job that comes into play anywhere today must ask, what is my impact on the climate and environment, and how can I reduce it? This is the second major consideration for the future of work. Our research suggests that by 2030, more than 2% of total working hours worldwide would be lost every year to climate change, among other because it is too hot to work or workers have to work at a slower pace. Now, 1.2 billion jobs globally, that is 40% of world employment, directly rely on healthy and stable environment. The environmental and employment challenges facing us are major and cannot be addressed separately or consecutively, making tackling them simultaneously a pressing necessity. In November 2021, at the COP26 conference, nations affirmed the urgent need to set up efforts in saving the environment, without which there is not much future. The ILO was instrumental in the agreement on the Just Transition Declaration, which draws upon the constituent adopted guidelines. These were adopted in 2015 for a just transition, which outlines the necessary steps towards well-managed, environmentally sustainable economies and societies with decent work for all, social inclusion, and the eradication of poverty. I think this is really something we need to look at very closely going forward and study how we bring this about. Without a doubt, climate action, including just transition, requires also significant financial investments over the next decade to reap longer-term economic, social, and decent work gains. Therefore, countries, businesses, financial institutions, and the international community must focus on exploring how a just transition is to be financed through innovative solutions such as public-private partnerships. ILO's recent report on greening with jobs shows that the considerable net gain, I should say, of jobs, there are considerable net gains in the transition, more so actually in rural areas, especially for women and at the local level. So this also becomes very important in what we have discussed here and how to bridging the gap between rural development and urban development. Now, moving on to my third consideration, anyone or anything that is hidden remains unaccounted for and is at risk for being left behind. This is precisely what has happened with women and care work, especially in the last 2 years. With the pandemic, the need for care services skyrocketed, most of which were undertaken and delivered by women and girls. This is done either as unpaid care responsibilities for the family by women of the household or by domestic workers who have become ad hoc, so to say, ad hoc health workers without adequate health and social protection. Now, care is crucial at the beginning of life and at the later stages. The ILO's latest report, which is entitled Care at Work, Investing in Care, Leave and Services for a More Gender Equal World of Work, It was released just last month on International Women's Day, found that nearly 3 million jobs, additional jobs, can be created globally by 2035 if the persistent and existing gap in care services could be plugged. Care policies based on universal access can create a breakthrough pathway for building a better and more gender-equal world of work. Better care policies will also open better employment avenues for women and men and increase the female labor force participation rate, which is essential for the economic development of a country. This can help establish a virtuous cycle of more equitable and inclusive development, as women have a greater inclination also to invest their household income in their children's education, health, and welfare. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is wonderful to have this conference in person after 2 years. Otherwise, we have all grown accustomed to seeing one another on a small screen. And with this, I would like to draw your attention to the last tenet, digitalization. Now, algorithms they are the ones dictating, so to say, the digital world. Although social media platforms sometimes highlight the inherent biases that creep into them, workers need to be safeguarded against algorithmic biases that could disadvantage them from accessing these labor markets based on their gender, ethnicity, and physical abilities. Gig and platform work becomes synonymous with the digital age. The ILO since 2015 has worked on gig and platform economy issues. Technology is redefining the economic relationships between workers and clients and employers globally, as platforms structure how work and work processes are organized. ILO's flagship report, The Role of Digital Labor Platforms in Transforming the World of Work from 2021 last year, broadly covered the transformations these platforms are bringing in. Through extensive surveys and interviews spanning 12,000 workers in 100 countries and about 85 businesses, it highlighted benefits like flexible work arrangements for marginalized sections, could facilitate access for women, persons with disabilities, and also youth, but also created challenges for workers' well-being and working conditions, especially in middle and low-income countries. As more work moves online with digitalization, workers miss out on the benefits of traditional workplaces like paid leave, minimum wages, limited working hours, collective bargaining, and social protection, as the onus is shifting from the employers onto the workers to ensure the availability of these benefits. Additionally, workers struggle to find sufficient well-paying work and often don't have access to social protection, whose importance the pandemic so critically highlighted. Now, as I conclude, I want to recall the central theme of the Centenary Declaration, the global call to action of a human-centered approach for the future of work. This approach, which reaffirms that we leave no one behind, is strengthened by the ideals of diversity and inclusion. As a result, the future of work has equal representation of women and men, is built on new and emerging technologies free of biases, is equitable for workers, employers, and governments, and above all, one where environment does not pay the cost. With these words, I wish to encourage you all to continue your invaluable, I must say, research on topics related to decent work and to nurture evidence-based policy making for that better future of work that we want to see. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, IIT Roorkee, for this absolutely fabulously organized conference on your premises, and also ISLE. I must say, our collaboration over the years, it's both from strength to strength, and then also all the academicians, all the scholars. Really, I really would like, see this take new heights broaden also inclusion of more scholars. It's heartening to see how these topics, engage. And in fact, there is also, you connect a lot also with policy making. You need to make your voice heard. You need to be active. You need to also engage in advocacy and activism to some extent. Thank you so much, and everyone a safe return. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Walter, for that very profound address. Every year, the ISLE presents awards to young scholars below the age of 40 years who present papers at the conference. So there are 3 awards this year for all the papers that have been presented at the conference. The first award is instituted in the name of Professor Surjit Singh, the late Professor Surjit Singh, the former secretary of the society. His contributions and commitment to the ISLE is cherished very widely by all its members. This award is the Surjit Singh Fellowship cum Award of rupees 25,000, and it is being awarded to Dr. Smriti Rekha Singhari. I request Ms. Dagmar Walter, the chief guest of this function, to please present the award to her. Dr. Smriti Rekha Singhari is from Institute for Human Development, New Delhi. It calls for a big round of applause. Congratulations, Smriti, and thank you, Ms. Walter. The second award is the L.K. Deshpande Young Labour Economist Award. I request Professor Alakhen Sharma, the conference president, to please do the honors. And the award is being given to Dr. Jajati Kesri Parida, if he's here. Please come on the dais. He's from Central University of Punjab. Congratulations, Dr. Parida. I now request the President of the Indian Society of Labour Economics, Professor Deepak Nair, to present the Hridayadat Memorial Award to Ms. Tista Mukherjee, if she's present in the hall. Please come up. Ms. Tista is from University of Kolkata. Come on the dais. Many congratulations, Tista. Thank you, Professor Nair. I would now like to invite Dr. I.C. Awasthi, the Honorary Secretary of the Society and Professor at Institute for Human Development, to propose the vote of thanks in this valedictory session.
Conference President, Professor Alakh Sharma, Professor Manoranjan Parida, Deputy Director, IIT Roorkee, Professor Deepak Nair, ISLE President, Dagmar Walter, Director, ILO Decent Work, Professor S.P. Singh, Professor, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, and Organizing Secretary, 62nd Annual Conference. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of the ISLE and my own behalf, extend a hearty vote of thanks to all distinguished scholars coming from different parts of the country and from abroad for their contribution to making the conference a special one on the occasion of 62nd Annual Conference. The deliberations have been most productive and useful. ISLE expresses its deep sense of gratitude to IIT Roorkee for hosting this conference, which has been highly successful and well organized. We are thankful to its director, deputy director, and Professor S.P. Singh, organizing secretary, and faculty, staff, research scholars, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences for making this event a great success. Our sincere thanks are due to all panelists, chairpersons, discussants, chief rapporteurs, who have contributed richly in the conference. I thank profusely all the volunteers who made this conference a great success. Once again, thank you for all your contribution and participation.
Thank you, Professor Awasthi. I now call upon the organizing secretary of this conference, Dr. S.V. Singh, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. Dignitaries on the dais, Ms. Dagmar Walter, Director, ILO, Decent Work Technical Support Team for South Asia and Country Office for India, Professor A.N. Sharma, Conference President, Professor Parida, Deputy Director, Professor Deepak Nair, Professor I.C. Avasthi, invited guests, conference delegates, media persons, students, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, good afternoon to all of you. The time is now approaching to end the 4 days meet of ISLE delegates. During the conference, we learned from each other. Sometimes we agreed with others and sometimes we agreed to disagree. This is the process of generating new ideas and knowledge. I may now be allowed to express my sincere thanks to all who have helped us to make this event such a success. First of all, I extend my profound gratitude to all the chairpersons, discussant of various plenary and technical sessions, keynote speakers, paper presenters, and other participants. Without their active involvement, this conference would not have been so successful. I extend my sincere thanks to Professor Nair, chairperson of this session, Ms. Dagmar Walter, who delivered the valedictory lecture and enlightened us and sharing her valuable thoughts, especially related to technology and labor market, digitalization, and women and digitalization. So various issues she has discussed in her valedictory address. I am also thankful to Professor Parida for addressing the audience and sharing his valuable thoughts, especially on two important theme of our conference also. Thank you, Professor Parida. I also thanks to Professor A.N. Sharma for providing an overview of the conference deliberation and Professor Avasthi for proposing a vote of thanks. The organization of this conference was a collective effort of the organizing committee, office bearer of ISLE, and ISD staff, faculty, staff, student of Department of Humanity and Social Sciences, technical staff and media cell, IIT Roorkee. I extend my sincere thanks to all of them. We also put on record the support and guidance received from our Honorable Director and Deputy Director. I thank Professor Nair, Professor Sharma, and Executive Committee and ISLE for accepting our invitation to host this conference at IIT Roorkee and providing us all possible supports. We are gratefully acknowledge the financial support received from Indian Council of Social Science Research, New Delhi, MHRD, New Delhi, ILO, Geneva, Center for Policy, Public Policy and Good Governance, and the Department of Economics and Statistics, Government of Uttarakhand, Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung Foundation, and several others who have sponsored several panel discussions and symposium during the conference. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to the conference secretariat, Professor Falguni Patnaik. Please give a big hand. Professor Rachita Gulati, please give a big hand. Professor Deepti Nayak and the ISLE Secretariat, Ms. Priyanka Tyagi, please give a big hand. Ms. Jyoti Girish, Deepti Madan and all other, Arjun and all the team, ISLE team. We are grateful for all of them. Their meticulous planning, dedication, and hard work made the conference a great success. So credit goes to both the teams for making this conference a great success. I would like to thank all deans, IIT Roorkee, our head of department, Professor Misra, and all my colleagues, particularly Professor Norial, Professor Nagin Kumar, Professor Abhishek, Professor Ram Manohar Singh, Professor Tony, Professor Risman, Professor Lala Tendu, Professor Puya, who have provided all possible support for this conference. We also thank the cultural program team led by Professor Smita Jha, Professor Shruti Sen Gupta, Professor Aparajita Singh for organizing the Sur Sangam for the conference delegates. Thank you very much. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate enough to be backed by a team of motivated and dedicated PhD and MSc students who knew their job and were result oriented. I thank all of them for their involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zone. They have worked hard, tirelessly, and dedicatedly for the success of the program. My special appreciation and thanks to all of them. I would take few minutes. I would like to call the name, and I request all these volunteers, please stand. Nitin Bist, who coordinated the entire program. Nitin, he is not around. Mukesh Kumar, co-coordinator of this program. Pallavi Gupta, Kushal Preeti, Sonia Yadav, Sonali Soni, Priya, Jaya, Himani, Sudha Yadav, Sonali, Anisha, Shivangi Gupta, Deepak Kumar, Nirmal Singh, Dhananjay Kumar, Riyaz Alam, T. Bhavani, Surender, Venkat Bhargav, Hemant Kumar, Sandeep Kumar, Urjan Dubka, Shashikant, Akshi Bajaj, Minakshi, Nominita, Zakir Hussain, Shubham Sharma, Subin, Kumari Ruchi, Amit, Ramshri Barik, Sushil, Mayank Mishra, Rajbir, Priyandu, and it's difficult for pronouncing the name. Heseleno, I could not pronounce it correctly. Parthasarthi Sao, Vanshika, Abhishek Seth, Akash Pal, Femuddin, Kamal Sharma, Rajbir, Lakshmi Kant, Rajbir Samuel, Tapan Kumar Sahu, Nancy Sharma, Sheetal Kumari, Sheetal Yadav, Sakshi Semwal, Seher Bano, Sudipta Ghosh, Zakir Hussain, Kalpana, Rishika Tomar, Surya Prakash, Digvijay Singh, Ashish, Arunav, Vishwajit, Manoj, Suraj Das, Raghunath, Madhav, Richa, Diksha, Arun Kumar, Amal Tom, Shubham, Garima, Nikita, Minakshi, Suraj, Arunav, Radhika, Sushil, Pragya, Taneja, Ashish Kumar, Nitin Bist again. Nitin, are you here? And few more names. Garima, Komal Sajwan, Akshi Bajaj, Priyadarshini, Milan Kumar, Hira Asif Khan, Pragya Taneja, Prerna Thapalyal and Rashi Jain. And my apology if I miss anyone. And all the MSc students. We also express our sincere thanks to media person for giving coverage to our program. Apologies if I miss anyone, but those who work for this conference know who are they and should be feel proud to be the part of this event. A journal saying is, great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending. Let us make this event a new beginning. Let us hope we all meet again to discuss new concerns and find a new solution at the 63rd Annual Conference of Indian Society of Labor Economics. Until we meet again, goodbye to all. I wish you a pleasant and safe journey back home. Thank you now.
Before the general comes in, I wanted to say that General Priyanka Tyagi has already declared that this is the best volunteer corps she has ever trained.
Oh, yes, that's true. Good job, all of you.
Congratulations. Thank you, all of you.